I hope we can all agree that AI definitely makes people more productive. Not everyone everywhere, but there are real productivity wins to be had when you start using certain AI tools for certain fields and job roles. That said, we haven't talked enough about the impact on us, not like our productivity, but our own brains. How much does using AI help, or more importantly, hurt our brains? This is a great question, and a new study just came out that seems to claim that our brains are actually getting dumber as we use AI. This is a terrifying result from some very established research. And I'm very excited to dive into this and see how significant it is, and also how much we should care about it, and most importantly, what we can do to keep ourselves from getting dumber as we use these AI tools. That all said, if AI does make us dumber, I've lost a lot of IQ, and someone's got to foot the bill. So a quick word from today's sponsor, and then we'll dive right in. One of the craziest things about this AI era is the number of big companies that are now willing to adopt things from much smaller teams. I never thought I'd see the day where giant Fortune 500 enterprises were considering making deals with companies like Cursor, but we're there today. There's one big blocker though. Your crappy self-rolled auth is not going to be a good experience once you try to work with these businesses. What if I told you there was a solution? What if I told you everyone from OpenAI to Cursor to Vercel to Carta, Replit, Jasper, Fowl, SourceGraph, Perplexity, and more were already using this solution? And what if I told you the solution was free for your first 1 million users? That's what we're here for today, because WorkOS is sponsoring this video, and they have been incredible to work with. These guys really get it. On one side, they know what we need as developers and what we expect when we integrate into our full stack TypeScript applications. And on the other end, they know how to deal with all of the annoying stuff you have to do right in order to set your app up for enterprise-ready work. If you've never had to set up something like SAML for a third-party company using your service, I envy you, because it is not fun. WorkOS makes it really easy. You click the Add Admin Portal to your app button, and now when you sign a contract with one of these enterprises, you just send them a link to configure the identity provider the way that they want to with whatever provider they use. Sure, there are plenty of other ways to set up different SSO methods in your app, but what happens when they need to set it up on their side? This is the easiest way to deal with that by far, and the alternative is not fun. If you've been here, you know how miserable it is, and if you haven't, I envy you. Avoid it while you can. So if you're ready to make your apps truly enterprise ready without compromising on the experience for developers, check out WorkOS today at soydev.link/WorkOS. Here's the official summary from MIT. With today's wide adoption of LLM products like ChatGPT from OpenAI, humans and businesses engage and use LLMs on a daily basis. Like any other tool, it carries its own set of advantages and limitations. This study focuses on finding out if the cognitive cost of using an LLM in the educational context of writing an essay. That's an interesting case to be studying. I saw a quote from this earlier, and it made me question the validity of the study, but I wanted to take the time to actually read it first. The focus being the educational context of writing an essay. I think it's intuitive that if you have two kids writing an essay, one uses AI heavily when writing it and one doesn't, that the one who used AI heavily probably learned less and probably retained less than the one who didn't. That makes intuitive sense to me. And if that's all this study concludes, I'm going to be upset. So let's go through it. We assigned participants to 3 groups: the LLM group, the search engine group, and the brain-only group, where each participant used a designated tool, or no tool in the latter, to write an essay. What if I had a Neuralink? Would I still be in the brain group? We conducted 3 sessions with the same group assignment for each participant. In the 4th session, we asked LLM group participants to use no tools. We refer to those people as LLM to brain. And the brain-only group participants were asked to use LLMs for the 4th session, brain to LLM. This was across 54 participants for sessions 1, 2, and 3, and 18 among them completed sessions 4. Very interesting way to do the study, to do 3 sessions as one of the 3 groups, and a 4th session where the thing they have access to flips. This is actually an interesting way to do this. I'm never going to pronounce this word. It's EEG. That's just what I know it as. They used EEG to record participants' brain activity in order to access their cognitive engagement and cognitive load, and to gain a deeper understanding of neural activations during the essay writing task. We performed NLP analysis, and we interviewed each participant after each session. We performed scoring with the help of human teachers and an AI judge, which was a specifically built AI agent. I was actually going to say, I wonder how much they use AI to help. Did the AI watch the brain activity and make reports on it? Anyways. We discovered a consistent pattern across the named entities recognition, NERs, engrams, ontology of topics within each group. The EG analysis presented robust evidence that LLMs, search engines, and brain-only groups have significantly different neural connectivity patterns, reflecting divergent cognitive strategies. Brain connectivity systematically scaled down with the amount of external support. The brain-only group exhibited the strongest and widest-ranging networks. The search engine group showed intermediate engagement, and the LLM group elicited the weakest overall coupling. In session 4, LLM to brain participants showed weaker neural connectivity and under-engagement of alpha and beta networks, and the brain to LLM participants demonstrated higher memory recall and re-engagement of widespread, not going to even try, in prefrontal nodes, likely supporting visual processing, similar to the one frequently perceived in the search engine group. The reported ownership of LLM group's essays in the interview was low. The search engine group had strong ownership, but lesser than the brain-only group. The LLM group also fell behind in their ability to quote from the essays that they wrote just minutes prior. Yeah, if they didn't write it, they're going to struggle. Like, this is the most common, this is so known, I can't believe it's being studied. One of the best ways to remember something is to write it down. I would bet that if you didn't allow the LLM group to copy paste and you made them manually type the things, there's a good chance they would have remembered them better, or better if you had them handwrite it. I would love to see a run of this experiment where everyone is forced to handwrite their essay. I bet the results would be very different as a result. Participants did not remember the contents of the essay that they did not write. Yeah. I expect this part to keep coming in, the LLM to brain versus brain to LLM. And this is a bias I have to account for myself. Because if we talk about the thing I use AI for the most, which is writing code, I wrote code for almost 20 years before I started using AI to do it. I've been writing code for a very long time. For the vast majority of my life, I've been writing code. And for the vast majority of my life, I've been writing code without AI assistance. So all of those neural pathways and whatnot were formed in my brain before I started to use the AI to help. Because of that, my use of AI is effectively the same cognitive load and cognitive levels as somebody searching things to find them on Stack Overflow and whatnot when they run into bugs. The concern I have is that most new programmers will be starting with LLM to brain effectively, where they'll be using LLMs and AI to teach them how to code, to start coding, to build their first things. And if they rely too heavily on those tools and never form these neural pathways themselves, there's a very real risk there. And I want to make sure I account for my bias because in my experience, the AI just makes me more effective. And I feel like I understand my code and what I'm building better. And I can spend more time thinking about the things that matter, like the architecture of the application and how things come together. I also think due to stuff like AI code review tools that I can focus my time on problems that matter more. Previously, when I reviewed code, I almost had to review it 2 to 3 times, where on one review, I would do an overview, figure out how does this all come together? I would do one review that's more traditional QA, like testing it, make sure the feature works as expected and that it behaves properly. And then one fine-combed pass where I'm going line by line and making sure each of those lines does what it's supposed to and doesn't have a weird syntax error that could cause problems or something like that. AI has made this a lot easier because it can do that annoying syntactical thing. It can summarize the PR and give me an overview. And then from that information, I can decide how deep and where I want to put the depth as I do my review. So is that less cognitive load and less neurons firing in my brain? Absolutely. It's also 1/3 the time being spent, and I can spend that time focusing on things that matter a hell of a lot more. To me, it feels similar to TypeScript, where before TypeScript, there were all these types of errors I had to worry about and deal with constantly. And when I was reading my code, I was reading it line by line, looking for bad aliases or castings or things being passed to a function that shouldn't be. Now with TypeScript, all of that cognitive overhead can be removed and now applied to other things that it's better spent on, or applied to me watching a YouTube video in the background while I code. All of these things are improvements, but depending on how you frame them, it might not seem that way. And I do feel similarly about how I use tab complete as to how I use TypeScript, where it has reduced the cognitive load on things that we shouldn't have to think about in the fucking first place. Also, surprise, the reported ownership varied between the groups. I don't know how they measured it, I'm sure they'll go into those details. The LLM group's essays was the lowest. Search engine group had strong ownership, but less than brain only. And of course, the failing to quote things that they didn't even write. is the educational impact of LLM use only begins to settle with the general population. In this study, we demonstrate the pressing matter of exploring a possible decrease in learning skills based on the preliminary results of our study. This possible decrease typo is funny. If only they had an AI check the stock. The use of LLM had a measurable impact on participants, and while the benefits were initially apparent, as we demonstrated over the course of 4 months, the LLM group's participants performed worse than their counterparts in the brain-only group at all levels: neural, linguistic, and in scoring. We hope this study serves as a preliminary guide to understand the cognitive and practical impacts of AI on learning environments. Very important detail, and I'm happy they scoped it down that way, because I have seen this being shared as though this means any use of AI is going to make you dumb. If you use tab complete and cursor, or you ask questions to AI, like all of these things make you dumber. As always, the way you use the tool determines how useful it is. Has the internet made people dumber? Some people, absolutely. TikTok in particular, I'm sure, has rotted the brains of many people. I would love a similar study here where you took all 3 of those groups and let them watch TikTok at the same time while they were working and see the impact there. It would be hilarious. They do call out their limitations, specifically the limited number of participants recruited from a specific geographical area, and they were very close to each other. For future work, it'd be good to bring in more people, different age groups, etc. Very much agree. The study was performed using ChatGPT, and though we do not believe at the time of this paper, publication in June 25, there are significant breakthroughs in any of the commercially available models to grant a significantly different result. We cannot directly generalize the obtained results to other LLMs. Other LLM models, large language models. Well, I can tell you that this wasn't written with AI. Thus, for future work, it will be important to include several LLMs and/or offer users a choice to use their preferred one, if any. Future work may also include the use of LLMs with other modalities beyond the text, like the audio modality. It would actually be, now I think about it, it would be so interesting if you had another group that could only use ChatGPT through voice, where you could ask it questions, it could respond, and then you could type the response. You just have like a phone provided to the participant that has ChatGPT voice mode open, and they can talk and get answers and go back and forth like that. That would be a really interesting study. I'd be so curious how that varies in comparison to using the website directly. We did not divide our essay writing task into subtasks like idea generation, writing, and so on, which is often done in prior work. This labeling could be useful to understand what happens at each stage of essay writing and have more in-depth analysis. The EEG stuff, it's brain scanning. It's never the most reliable thing. There's always more that could be done. The findings are context dependent and focused on writing an essay in an educational setting, and they may not be generalized across all tasks. I am so happy they called this out because nobody else is. It'd be nice if these could also study longitudinal impacts like memory retention, creativity, and writing fluency. Is it safe to say that LLMs are, in essence, making us dumber? No. Please do not use the words like stupid, dumb, brain rot, harm, damage, and so on. It does a huge disservice to this work, and we do not use this vocabulary in the paper, especially if you are a journalist reporting on it. Fuck me. Okay. And the first report everyone saw about this, I have to meme on this one. I'm sorry. Oh boy, the next study's vibe coding. It's going to be such a fun one. I am so excited. I am so excited for that. It's also of note this is a preprint. They're still waiting for peer review. It started, but they're at the very beginning of the process. It can take 4 months to 2 years for that to be finished. Anything else that you feel is relevant to a story about this project? Lots of media and people use LLMs to summarize the paper. It adds to the noise. Your human feedback is very welcome if you read the paper or parts of it. Also, as a reminder, the study has a list of limitations that we list very clearly both on the paper and on this webpage. And to the best of our knowledge, it is one of the first protocols. Thus, we do expect more papers and studies from ourselves and other researchers with different protocols, populations, tasks, etc. that will have different results. Addition to the vocabulary, please avoid using terms brain scans, LMs make you stop thinking, impact negatively, brain damage, terrifying findings. I've only hit like half of those so far, but I'm happy they call this all out. Very responsible reporting from MIT. They knew when they wrote this what would happen. And they have been very straightforward about how we should be reporting on this. And I want to do my best to do that. I also want to see what Alex said here. 83.3% of ChatGPT users couldn't quote from essays they wrote minutes earlier. You write something, hit save, and your brain's already forgotten it because ChatGPT did the thinking. Each group would struggle to quote anything from the essays. Okay, we need to read this paper because I'm getting annoyed at how people are covering this already. 206 pages, fuck me. God, these essay prompts read like something I had to write for my AP exams. This hurts me. This hurts me deeply. Many people believe that loyalty, whether to an individual, an organization, or a nation, means unconditional and unquestioning support no matter what. To these people, the withdrawal of support is by definition a betrayal of loyalty. But doesn't true loyalty sometimes require us to be critical of those we are loyal to? We see that they are doing something that we believe is wrong. Doesn't true loyalty require us to speak up, even if we must be critical? Assignment. Does true loyalty require unconditional support? Okay, that's interesting. Participants in the LLM group were restricted to using OpenAI's GPT-4o as their sole resource of information for the essay writing task. No other browsers or other apps were allowed. That seems like a big deal. I obviously use AI stuff a lot. I'd be curious if they were allowed to click through or not, but I like searching for stuff myself too. It doesn't specify here if they were allowed to use search though, which is important. Group 2 is search engines. They could use any website to help them with their essay writing task. Okay, that seems to imply that the ChatGPT group couldn't, because they couldn't go to the other sites even if the AI brought them there. Google search and other search engines had -AI added to any queries, so no AI-enhanced answers were used by the search engine group. And then group 3 just used their brains. Okay. When it comes to satisfaction, only the search engine group had full satisfaction. The brain-only group had the lowest satisfaction, and the LLM group had higher, but still not great. So that I see why they didn't disclose that, because that's just a messy result. Not that it proves or disproves anything. But the more I'm reading this, the more I'm thinking the nature of the prompts that we read. I want to read more of them, because most of these are about like feelings. Like these aren't things that you would need to do much research for. Like if you're writing about happiness or loyalty or forethought, what are you even Googling? Like if you're Googling for sources for this, what are you even looking for? This is like an opinion piece. Do works of art have the power to change people's lives? Like what are you using Google for when you write that essay? Then what are you using LLMs for when you write that essay? Okay, that's obvious. You ask it to help you write the essay or theorize it or structure it or whatever. You can't ask Google to help you structure a thing that's that open-ended. The experiments I would want to see, like the brain-only group wouldn't work. Maybe like brain plus book. Like you give one group a history book, you give one group Google, you give one group an LLM, and you ask them to talk about the complexity of what led to the Civil War happening or something like that. I just can't imagine how useful Google would be writing any of these essays. So this might just come down to like how much did they use and rely on the tools? But also when you're writing something like this, especially if you're in a study where you were told like, we are studying your use of this, use this tool as you write this paper, I would struggle enough. Like if you gave me ChatGPT and this prompt and told me, write an essay for this prompt, use this tool, that tool will be writing the essay for me. I can tell you that for sure. Obviously, when you Google search things, you have to transform the information more than if you use an LLM. But I am a little skeptical. I'm thankful they have been as reserved as they have been with this. There are still useful things from the study, but it's a weird study. All studies are weird, but it's very limited in what it tested. Yeah, like my absolute ideal here would be like put them through a fake history course. Like not fake as in fake information, but like fake as in they're not actually going to school for studying history. But like give them 2 lectures on history. Have one group write an essay just from their brain and what they recall. Maybe let them have their notes. Have one group use search as well, and have one group use LLMs as well. I bet the results would be very, very different if you start from the class that they all shared. This is an interesting detail. Since they did multiple sessions, by the 3rd session, more of the LLM group went from having no ownership, as they put it, over the essays to having more later on. So as they got more and more used to using the AI, they felt more in control of it. Similarly, a brain-only group participant shared, I wrote the essay myself. However, the LLM group participants displayed a more critical perspective, with one admitting, I felt guilty using ChatGPT for revisions, even though I contributed most of the content. I don't know how they define correct quotes in this. My assumption is that it means word for word. And if you were to write a thing and then ask the LLM to improve it or change it, you are much less likely to remember that exact quote now because something else wrote it. Duh. I am confused. I just looked through every instance of the word quote in here, and they don't meaningfully substantiate or like define the term and how they are defining correct quoting. Also interesting on the ability to quote, after session 1, the people in the survey knew that they'd be asked to provide specific quotes, and going forward, they could now do it. So sessions 2 and 3, their ability to quote was now within a spitting distance of brain-only group. Again, it's only 18 participants, but 2 of 18 in both LLM group and search engine group failed to quote in sessions 2 and 3. This seems less and less a big deal, and I am upset about how bombastically this is being shared. 47% reduction in brain connectivity. Teachers don't know which essays used AI, but they could feel something was wrong. Soulless, empty with regard to content, close to perfect language while failing to give personal insights. When researchers forced ChatGPT users to write without AI, they performed worse than people who never used AI at all. Yeah, if they've written 4 sets of essays, one group did it 3 times and then a 4th, the group that didn't do it at all and then did it once, like I guarantee like the first results from the brain group and the final results from the ChatGPT group were probably pretty similar. Every shortcut you take with AI creates interest payments and lost thinking ability. And just like financial debt, the bill comes due eventually. I don't love this study, not because it is bad. It is actually a very good study, and it's researching an interesting question, which is for like creative works of educational purposes. How does relying on ChatGPT and other AI LLM tools affect your ability to write and comprehend the thing that you wrote? Sadly, the nature of this reporting is such that it's going to be blown way out of proportion, as we are already seeing with this reporting from Alex and many others. There's a reason they put this piece in the FAQ. They don't want the type of reporting that's going on right now to be going on. And as sorry as I am for clickbaiting this video, I thought it was the best way to get the reality of this study out. So here we are now. Appreciate you guys, as always, for coming through for this one. I'm curious how y'all feel. Am I downplaying this? Are they upplaying it? How do you guys think? And I'm very excited to see that vibe coding study in the future too. Until next time, peace nerds.